Mindset Podcast. We're your guide as you make your way through life, getting better 1% every day. We believe that life is lived and true victory won through adversity. Nothing easy is ever worth it. We believe in the warrior ethos and support those that choose to walk that
Thanks for
path.
coming out, man.
I appreciate you having me, man.
I think we were talking a little bit right before we got started, and I'm really interested to hear the story. And like I said, it's not disrespectful anyway, but most people I talk to are sort of not necessarily the end of their careers, but they're sort of seasoned.
Like they're almost there.
They're well seasoned.
Yeah.
And you're not at the beginning, but like,
Yeah.
you're fresh.
Yeah, I would still
You're a
consider
fresh face.
Yeah, still fresh face, but I just feel old at 27.
Well, let's talk about that. Well, so I know that you are. What are you? You're going in the Air Force, but it's not just like, I'm not just going in the Air Force. So tell me a little bit about what you're looking to do.
So I'm going in as a in the special warfare community. Same thing as special operations. It's a CCT Combat Controller. I still don't know the designating
That's where you're going.
Yeah, for special forces, 18 Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta Echo. I don't know what the Air Force is, 1, 2 TZX or whatever. I'll learn that when I get in. But yeah, so combat controller is, from what the basic of it is, it's the ground air asset.
Okay.
For a special operations team, whether a CCT is going to be running in a Air Force team or they're going to be running with a Special Forces ODA or SEAL team, they're pretty much the ground to air asset for them, calling in close air support, talking to the aircraft above.
Right.
And I had options between pararescue, which is like medic, but
I remember we were talking about that.
Yeah,
about a year ago.
Yeah, so I was looking at that, but then I was just like, I just don't know if I want to worry about all that medical stuff, because that you got to be switched on to do the medic side of everything. And I'm just like, I understand basics of how to.
That seems like a very different life.
Yeah, and I'm like, when I was deployed, we called them, the 18 Delta, the medic. They were they always call them the voodoo witch doctors, because they can do stuff that nobody would think of doing. And then their other one was special reconnaissance, which is kind of like, you just do a lot of recon, a lot of drone stuff, going behind enemy lines, doing getting surveillance. And I'm just like, I don't know if I want to do that either. And then I talked to a CCT. My developer for Air Force is actually a current, or not a current, but was a 10-year CCT. And I'd sit there and talk to him for an hour. I actually did Saturday. I talked to him for an hour on the phone, and we were just talking, shooting shit. And he was telling me, he's like, we did this, and this. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do right there. So that kind of sealed the deal. Everybody compares, it's like the combat controllers are like the Navy SEALs, I guess, of the Air Force. That's what.
Okay. Yeah.
They're like not the same level, but they're just, when it comes to
different jobs.
Yeah, different jobs.
Yeah. That's excellent.
Oh yeah.
So let's rewind a little bit. You said you were deployed.
Yep.
I do know that. You were in the National Guard.
Yep.
Army National Guard.
Technically still am.
Okay.
Technically still am until I leave.
They're not gonna let you go until
not until I
sign the dotted line.
Yep.
So let's back up. How did you know, or how did you get into National Guard? How did you get there?
So I'll tell you how I got in the military, period.
However it worked.
Yeah, so my whole family military, as you know. Dad was Navy, mom's military. She's currently deployed to Africa.
I was gonna let you mention your dad.
Yeah.
I don't want.
Yeah, I gotta mention Dad.
I don't want to be that guy.
He was 4 years Navy. Yeah. Mom is, I think, 23 years Army National Guard, but she's active guard.
Right. She's deployed right now.
Yep, she's deployed in Djibouti, Africa, right there at the Horn. And then brother was in. He did 6 years and got out.
So the whole family.
Yeah, grandpa.
You have no choice.
Yeah, but at the end of the day,
I know your dad's dad was definitely.
Grandpa, good old Grandpa Frank did 42 and a half years in the military. I think I believe it was 60, a little over 60 years law enforcement, military, all combined.
Wow. You just had no choice.
Yeah, it was just like, all right, well, I guess I'll keep the train rolling, keep the train going.
All right.
But as you know, Dad was SWAT, and I grew up around, military law enforcement tactics. I was, by the age of 5, I was shooting guns. And I think the first gun I ever shot was either the MP5 or the UMP40.
Oh wow.
I think. And
most people's first gun.
No. Dad was like, hey, you know what? You're gonna shoot the big boy guns, at a small age, and he's got a picture of me doing, indexing with the trigger finger. He's like, don't ever put your finger on the trigger, or booger in the booger hook or whatever he called it.
That's what he says, the booger hook.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I understood it.
Okay.
I understood tactics. I understood everything military tactics wise. So I was like, you know what? Why not join the military? And my parents kept saying, just go active, do 4 years active. I was like, well, no, I'll just join the National Guard like my brother and go to school full time and get my degree. Terrible decision on my part because I'm terrible at school.
Okay.
But so that was the main reason to join.
It can't be that terrible
Well,
okay.
I'll say, and I'm not ashamed to say this. I tell people this all the time. I was way too immature for college.
Sure.
I was too immature till probably I got back from my deployment.
Okay.
And again, I'm not ashamed to say that because it took a little bit for me to kind of understand everything in life, period.
How it works.
Yeah. And, but no, I joined the Guard, planning to go to school, did 2 years at Midlands Tech, flunked both semesters, then switched to online and went to work full time. Flunked that online. I was so worried about, just hanging out, playing video games and just not really caring.
Yeah.
And now that I'm older, I'm like, all right, that kind of bit me in the ass now.
Well,
but it's that thing where it's like, you just make the mistakes.
Yep.
And you just roll with it.
That's life, man. It does seem sort of, I think about that. I have my oldest son's in Clemson and he was sort of like put together, he's like, I know I want to go to Clemson. I want to be an architect. And he did all the stuff and now he's there. He's doing well. My younger son is like, it's like, he's a great student. He's a great person, but it's a shame that you have to kind of know what you want to do when you're 17.
Yeah.
Cause what the hell is that? Like,
well, nowadays, probably before that.
Oh yeah, dude.
Because like I'm sure when you were growing up, it's like a bachelor's degree was like you had a bachelor's degree,
was it.
You were top shit.
Yep.
But now it's like you need masters, PhDs to really get anywhere in life.
And how are you supposed to know what you want to do at 17 enough to go in a track? Because you get to college and they're like, you got to start on this track. I'm like, well, I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like because that's how kind of how it was with me. It's like I was like, I wouldn't mind doing something. And at first I was like, I want to do something exercise science, like because that was in my mind that was the fad.
Yeah, you love to work out. Yeah,
I love to work out. Well, growing up, I hated working out.
Okay,
and not till later I loved to work out, but during the time I was like, I want to do exercise science because it's cool. It's I want to be on the football field, be an athletic trainer. I want to do all that.
Right.
But then now Dad told me, he's like, just get a degree. A degree is a degree. I knew I was going military, doing a career military. He's like, doesn't matter what your degree's in, just get a degree and switch over officer.
Yeah.
Once you get to your master's, then focus on a specific, like, I guess, job or field.
Yeah. Right.
And I was just like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about, yada, yada, yada. Young kid, not, how young kids are. My parents don't know anything. And then when you're older, you're like, damn, I should probably listen to my parents.
Yeah, I know. The older I get, the smarter my dad gets.
Yeah. And then the dumber you feel. That's how it is with my dad. But so it was, focus on just getting your degree, getting your degree. And I think I, at the time, resented that. I was like, I want to do what I want to do.
Right.
Yada, yada.
Right.
And then when I got older,
I feel that.
I'm like, damn, Dad was just helping me get step to step to step. But again, being a younger, immature kid, I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. And the difference between my dad and my dad was the one who was like, here's a plan you should do, or at least here's some advice. He always gave me advice. He never said you have to do this. You have to do this. He's like, this is what you need to do if you want to get to where you want to go. But Mom was just like, do what you want. And she would just watch you. She's like, but if we went and asked her for advice, she'd give us advice.
Okay.
But it was like, if she said that's not a good idea, and then you do it anyway, she's like, okay.
Either learn your lesson or don't.
She's like, you'll learn. That was her thing. She's like, you'll learn.
Yeah.
You
will.
Yeah. And and I'm grateful for that. Some people thought that was wild. And I'm just like, no, now that I'm older, I'm like, I'm grateful that she did that. She's like, you'll learn one day. And then now that I'm older, I'm learning.
What do I do now? Tell me.
Yeah. Like, tell me, Mom, give me all the advice you have.
All right. So National Guard, you deployed how many times?
One.
Where?
Syria.
Oof.
Yep. So from January 3rd to.
It sounds serious.
Yeah.
That was not a joke. But.
Yeah. No, it was from January 3rd to December 12th. It was technically the deployment from January. So before you deploy, especially in the National Guard, you have to do all your mutas, means all your drill dates for the next FY fiscal year. So from October 28th to January 3rd, we had to make up or do all of our drills. So we still have a good year for the year we're going to be missing on deployment. Yeah.
I just I figured, I've had 2 or 3 people tell me about that. I just figured it out. It's like, you're going to go do this work, but you still have to do this other
you still
work.
have to do all these other drill dates. So it's on the books that you did that you were here. We're like, all right, well,
we have to file this paperwork, bro.
Yep. So it's like, all
funny.
right, whatever. But so from October 28th to October 28th to January 3rd, we're doing our drill dates. We're having to, we did an extra annual training where we just went out and for 2 weeks into the field, did a bunch of training, like, hey, we're doing this. We're like, okay, cool. And from January 3rd to roughly the middle of March, we ended up going to Fort Bliss for the first week. And then after that, we went to McGregor, New Mexico, which is like 45 minutes from Fort Bliss. And there for 2 months, we were just doing train up. And then before you leave, you have to get graded by graders. Like, hey, you guys are good to deploy.
Okay.
And then if you don't pass the grade, then you're going to be training. It's like, okay, you're going to do it again. But good thing is we passed everything. So then we left and ended up going to Kuwait, Arafaton, Kuwait, to CAC in. Whenever you go to Arafaton, you have to, whenever you go into another country, you have to CAC in.
Okay.
Pretty much scan your military ID. And then you get pushed out to wherever you're going.
Okay.
So we got pushed out of Camp Buehring, which is about 2.5, 3 hours from Arafaton. So we sat there for like a week, and then there's like, hey, you guys are going to Greenville, Syria. We're like, cool, awesome.
So they didn't tell you where you were going until you got to Kuwait.
Yeah, we didn't know. And of course, when you're in a group of people, there's that rumor mill going around, like, oh, you guys are going here. And we're like, I'm like, I don't care where I go.
We're gonna go somewhere.
I'll go somewhere I'll just go where they tell me.
Right.
They have me for a year, so
yeah, that's
whatever.
What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I can't tell them no. Yeah. So then they told us like, hey, you guys are going to Greenville, Syria. So we had 144 people in our company that we took with us, and only 21 or 22 of us ended up going to Syria first, into that area. Excuse me. And our main job was, route clearance, RCP, route clearance package. That was our job, looking for IEDs in the ground, using sonar detection with Huskies. But when we got there,
really,
so when we got there in Syria, Huskies were broken. They were not working at all. We're just like, all right, well, we're not going to be using these Huskies, so we'll do visual identification. If we see it, we'll look at it, identify it, bip it, which means blow it in place, and let it rock.
Move on with life.
Yep. So we ended up getting to Syria roughly middle of March. Flew in. Funny story, actually. We ended up, we flew into Iraq, Erbil, Iraq, and then from there you get on a chopper. So we'll take a C-17 to wherever you have to go, and then if you're going to an area that doesn't have a landing zone, you take a chopper. So we got to Erbil, and we stayed in a tent. Next morning, we all woke up, went to the flight deck, waiting on the Chinook. We see the Chinook and the 2 Blackhawks coming in. They land, and the Chinook lands, and we see the pilot get out. We're like, should he be getting out right now? And next thing you know, the helicopter starts shutting down. We're like, huh, what? Okay. And then they start taking like a panel off, and we're like, that does not seem safe. Like, I feel like that's a bad idea. Like, that's not good.
Yeah.
So they come over, and there's like, yeah, you guys aren't flying today. Maintenance on the chopper. We're like, okay. So we were stuck in Erbil for 4 days before we could even go out.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, it's the same pilot and stuff. And we're like, is this chopper flight worthy?
He's like, sure.
Yeah. He's like, all right,
I got you.
Yeah. And then we took about an hour and a half, 2 hour flight over to Greenville, Syria, touchdown. And then we met up with 2 of our guys who were already there, pretty much getting the down and dirty of how everything was, doing some routes with the previous active duty route clearance unit. And then we ended up, when we first touched down, we were like, the sergeant major over there was an SF guy. We were over there with only like SF. Delta ended up showing up. And then Marines were there doing security. And then we had some like fuelers that were working with SF guys fueling trucks and stuff. We ended up getting there, and there's like, hey, sergeant major said we have a mission like tomorrow. And we're all like, 6 o'clock at night. Maybe you want us to run a mission. Yeah. We haven't even done any maintenance on our trucks. We haven't even gotten in our trucks yet. So we're like, all right, we ended up just all pretty much grabbing our stuff, sprinting to our building, dropping everything off, going back out to work on our trucks. Like, hey, let's see where they're at.
You got to do it.
Yeah. And the unit before we opened our trucks, we're like, they have never cleaned these things. Like, we're like, you could literally, out of 6 vehicles that we had, we could literally just like blow out a beach if we wanted to. There was so much sand in it because they never cleaned it.
Yeah.
So we ended up spending like 3 hours, like 9 o'clock at night. And we're all like, we can't go. Like, we can't run this mission. Like, our vehicles are not up to standard. And I was a gunner. So I was the CROW operator, the common remotely operated weapon station. So it was like the computer up under the computer turret where I was up underneath with like old school joystick and a screen and stuff. And I was like, my CROW won't even turn on. Oof. I was like, I'm like, we can't go on mission. Like, my weapon system doesn't even work. And, I was like, I can get up there and free turn it or free maneuver it, but I don't have any cover. There's no plates in front because it's, I've cameras and stuff in front of it. And I'm like, I was like, I can't just get up there because then I don't have any cover. So they ended up telling them like, hey, we can't run this mission. So we ended up spending the next 2 days just working on our vehicles. We got them tip top shape. We're like, our vehicles are set. We're ready to roll. Yeah. And then 2 days later, we got on our first mission. Wow. And then they did the whole crawl, walk, run method. There was like first mission only gonna be like 2 hours. We're just gonna go out, see our vehicles ride, and just go out and see what out there is, And then we ended up going to 2, then 4, then we ended up going to 8, and then after that we were just running missions. We didn't have a time hack.
We got you now.
Yep. It was like we didn't have a time hack, but the only thing was there technically was a curfew. They didn't want us out. If it was getting dark, you turn your ass around and you go home. Simple. You RTB, return to base. And because if we're out at night, they have to have a drone above. They have to just do so much stuff that it's
not safe.
Yeah, you got to be safe with a lot of this.
What was the climate like in Syria there? I mean, you're running missions. I mean, you're obviously there for a reason.
Yeah. So when we were there, it was kind of like the downfall of ISIS. So we didn't get into any gunfights. The oddest thing was, every once in a while when you're going down route, it's a big open fields, it's just clear. And you just see a bunch of sheep and a sheep herder. That was at first, when we first saw that, we're like, hey, that's unusual because you've never seen it before. Because here in the US, you don't really see that. But then it turns into like, oh, he's just herding a sheep. He's just having to walk 10 miles to get to the next village or something like that. But then it started, and then sometimes you get weird where it was just a random person in the middle of a field, nothing around. You're like, and he'd have a phone.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just like, that's not normal. But it was, when we're riding through villages, like the drivers, they don't like here. We have laws when it comes to driving. We have lanes. There, it's just you just go. It's just like if you get out the person in front of you, if they're coming at you, just it's like playing chicken. It's like playing chicken. You'd see 6 people on a moped. Like it's like how is that like how is that not just hitting the ground? Like, how is that not heavy enough? We saw. Funny thing, we saw and just the different climate, atmosphere, stuff like that, is you see AKs all the time. If they have an AK, they're not shooting at you. They're friendly at the time.
Right, this is what they got.
It's what they have. That's normal. Them having AK-47s or weapons out.
Yeah.
And then we saw one thing where they had a moped with a platform on the back of the moped with a dishka mounted to it, which is a heavy machine gun
on a moped.
On the back of a moped, on a plate, on a plate. And we're like,
work with what you got.
We're like,
all right.
Should we be worried? He was in front of us, and we're like, that would hurt.
Tell you that guy.
Yeah. So we're just like, we told the gunner like, hey, watch that guy. Yeah. Because it was like, it's like, all right, red flag. But you see kids running around the streets. They love seeing the big trucks. Probably just like here, kids here, they love the big trucks.
Right.
But you're just like, where are their parents? Because here it's, 5, 6-year-olds, they're not running around without parents.
Yeah, you see a 5 or 6-year-old, you need to go help.
Yeah, they're running around like crazy. They'll get home when they get home. And when I was over there, I realized like we have a lot here in the US.
Yeah.
We have our own problems, but we have a lot. Those kids are out there playing with tires, having a blast.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, I don't need all this stuff that I have
Yeah.
now.
Wow.
You know, and it's a whole different animal.
Yeah, that's a
And
good lesson.
yeah, and it really opens your eyes when you're over there. You're like, okay, maybe I don't need the newest phone every year.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I can just use my phone until it's
So it
dead,
stops working.
until it
Yeah.
stops working. I have no choice but to get it.
Yeah.
And you know, they have soccer balls that they'll play for 10 hours a day, and it's the same soccer ball that's
Right.
like got holes in it. It doesn't
Right.
even bounce like a soccer ball. They're just kicking like a flat piece of rubber.
Wow.
At that point.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, like
Yeah.
that's. And then there's a village we'd go through. I know I'm rambling.
No,
but
it's a good story.
Oh yeah, it's
Have you ever just unloaded all these stories?
not like at this pace. It's like I've had to do pieces
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I'm pretty much going like in my mind, I'm just like going, all right,
Yeah.
timeline. They're going through the whole thing. But there's this village that we would have to go through, and it would be tight.
Mhm.
And what would happen is when you're doing a route clearance package, you don't let people inside your package. Right.
Gotcha.
So we ended up being at a 5-vehicle package. We had 2 gun trucks in front, wrecker in the middle, which the wrecker is pretty much the maintenance vehicle. If the vehicle goes down, it has a crane in the back, hook it up and roll out. And then 2 gun trucks in the rear. And whenever you go into a village, you consolidate that because it's tighter and you don't want people.
Sure. You will run over people.
Yeah. Well, but they know to get out of our way. But the main thing is we don't want vehicles to get inside of our convoy.
Got you.
Because that's a vehicle borne and provides explosive device.
Right.
We don't want them inside of our
Makes
to
sense.
break us up. Because what they'll do is they'll take one truck out
And drive in between you. Right.
and then once if they initiate that explosion, boom, that's
the
a
ones
truck
behind
down.
you are cut
And,
off.
Yep.
Right.
So that was a big threat for us. And then on the other side of that, once we tighten in, we get out of the village. We ended up expanding and stuff like that. But on the other side of that village, there was we called it tent city.
Mhm.
People who didn't have homes. It was just a bunch of tents. Kids, women, children. Women, children, even men, adult men.
Right.
And elders. They lived in tents. And what we do is we drive by and our gunners would just throw some water. One day we threw a case of water out. A little kid grabbed it, and an older gentleman comes up, shoves the kid into the ground, and picks up the water and runs. And we're like,
hey,
we can't do anything about it.
Right.
We're not getting out. That's a safety thing for us. We don't open our doors.
And they know that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they know that. But a lot of times the kids won't really think, and they'll run damn near get underneath our vehicles.
Right.
And if that's the case, we stop and we blow our horn. Like we're not, number one, we're not getting out of our vehicle.
They're kids. Yeah.
Yeah, they're kids. They don't know. But
Yeah.
we were very cautious about that. Going through there, we slowed our speed down because we know those kids would start running around.
Right.
And then once we got through there, we'd expand the formation because we could see more. It's not a tight environment, nothing like that. We'd push the formation out as long as you're no more that I want to say we did no more than 100 meters.
Okay.
Then you're fine.
It's still pretty far.
Yeah, it's far.
Yeah.
Because there's 100 meters in between, but when we get into a village, just think of it as like a slinky.
Right.
You get into a village, tight down. When you get further out and you have a lot of wiggle room, expand it out. And that's pretty much how it was. And then other than that, we just ran a lot of missions. I think in those, it doesn't sound like a lot, but in the 4 months that I was there, and then we ended up switching with another platoon. In those 4 months I was there, we ran, I want to say 68 combat missions.
Wow.
Which some people think that's not a lot. That's a mission every other day almost.
One sounds like a lot to me.
Yeah. So we ran a lot of missions.
Yeah.
And then I want to say we bipped close to 80 explosives.
Wow.
Yeah, there'd be missions where we didn't blow anything up.
Yeah,
but
sure.
then there was one mission where we blew up like 6 things on one mission.
Oof.
And within like a 2-hour time span.
Right. That's a lot.
And then we ended up going back to Kuwait after the whole Syria thing was done. And then just kind of hanging out in Kuwait.
Yeah.
We had another platoon in Syria, and then we had other people in like Iraq, other parts of Syria, KLZ, NLZ. And then we were in Kuwait. We were just kind of, doing some training or just working out all the time.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all, or playing video games. Those are, it was either training, video games, eating, working out. That was it. We didn't really have any details.
Occasionally risking yourself get blown up. Like,
well, in Kuwait,
whatever.
Yeah. No, cool. That's the thing. Like, Kuwait's not a combat zone anymore.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's literally, I tell people all the time, like, if you can go to Kuwait, just go. Like, if you go to Arafaton or something, don't complain about it, because everyone complain when you're there, because you're like,
I'm so far from
awesome.
home.
Like
Yeah.
I see me, I didn't care about being away from home. You know,
Right.
I think of it as I have Wi-Fi. If I want to talk to somebody, I'll FaceTime them or shoot them a text or call them.
Gotcha.
You know, but you know, in Kuwait, they got Pizza Hut, Starbucks, Subway, like all that stuff, and it's like, okay, it's kind of like a vacation right now.
It could be.
You know, just a lot of sand and it's hot.
Hopefully they don't hear this and they.
Oh no, they know it.
I'm sure.
Yeah, they know it. And
what's that like, man? What is that first moment where you're like, you're landing over there and you're just like, oh shit, I'm doing this. Like, what is that like? What is going through your head?
So it's like, okay, I'm here. This is legit.
It's real.
Yeah.
All the shit I've been doing.
All this training, like this is legit. This is happening.
Yeah.
And it's, you kind of flick that switch. You're like, okay, in Kuwait, you can kind of take a little breather and not really have to worry too much, because the security on the outside is just nuts. Like there's so much stuff out there. You know,
been there a while.
And they have to get through a lot to get even into the middle. There's so much they have to go through.
Gotcha.
But when we got to Syria, I was like, all right, this is legit.
Yeah, it's just me in this truck door.
Yep. People on the outside of this, you know, possibly want to kill me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, all right, well, you know, flick that switch. The kid goes away, and it's, you know, it's rough. You know, and the thing that really clicked for me is day one we got there, we were going to turn our stuff in. We had to stay in like a L-shaped school. Front door right at the 90-degree angle. And the only way we could get in at the time was to go through the back. So we ended up going through the back. The moment we climbed the stairs up to the second floor, we look over, there was a wall of Hesco berries, which are just big old sandbag walls. We see the SDF, Syrian Democratic Forces, we see them sitting there with a ton of, like, probably 300 AKs, probably 100 RPGs, and we're just like, what is going on? They had mortar rounds, and the next thing you know, we see them holding up a flag of ISIS and taking pictures. They just seized a ton of weaponry from ISIS, and I was like, you're like, oh yeah, I was like, all right, like we're legit in a combat zone,
right?
You know, all the stuff you hear on the news, see on TV, all of us thought we're like, we're here, we're in it, you know, and you know, seeing it talk, like I would go talk to the special forces guys and just talk to them.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, I'm Logan Norris. Nice to meet you, man. And just get to know them.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, something happens at base, we're going to be there together.
Yeah.
And, they were super cool guys. And then you can tell that they were just like you can tell that they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
You know, they knew where they were, and they just knew what to do when something happened. So it was a eye-opening experience.
Yeah.
You're just like, holy shit, we're doing this.
Yeah. You know, it's something else interesting, and you're like this too. Anyone I've spoken to who's been deployed in an area that is like that or whatever, they're very I don't know, they're just very, very sharp people. Like their mind seems to move at a quicker pace, and they notice things that I don't normally notice, and I try to notice as much as I can. You think that's just kind of born from spending time in a place where you have to notice things?
Yeah. Also mainly because in route clearance, your job is to pay attention to indicators of an IED.
Yeah.
You know, so when we train, it's, you know, our eyes are open. We're switched on. We, like at McCready, backside of Fort Jackson, our training center, there'd be like little mounds on the side that you can tuck stuff underneath. And that would be what they do most of the time for training, because it's like, let's see if he spots this.
Right. I mean, in reality, the goal is to hide it from you so you never see it.
Yep.
Right. I mean,
yeah,
it's a different puzzle.
Yeah. And us not having those detection assets at the time because they were just broken.
Yeah.
And there was no intel of them putting IEDs in the ground anymore. You know, but at the end of the day, there's a chance we can hit.
But they're there.
Yeah, they're there. But they weren't mainly on our routes, because the routes that we were going on, they've been on for 2-3 years.
Gotcha.
And they haven't done anything. But you know, it's once I saw that first mortar round that we bipped, or you know, some kind of explosive that we saw, it's like, wow, I would have seen that if I would have drove past it. So it's like, all right, eyes open.
Now you're like
situational awareness. You know, we have a thing in the military where in the route clearances, if you have to get out your truck, 0s, 5s, 25s, and beyond, 0, you look directly below you, right? 5, you look directly below you, 5 meters out, full all the way around
Okay.
as far as you can look. 25, look from 0 all the way up to 25. Look 25 meters far as much as you can, and then beyond.
Okay.
That's how you know you're like, okay, I don't see anything. Okay, I can step off my truck and move around carefully,
Right.
but not have to worry about within 25 meters. So
5, 10s, and 25s.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. So that was our thing. Whenever you get out the truck, that's what you do. You look down, around,
Yeah.
5, 25.
You bring that
beyond.
you bring that now to your life out. I mean, you're about to do Air Force stuff, but I mean,
Yeah. So being in the US, I don't have to worry about bombs or IEDs right now. But like, well, I don't have to see that there's an IED underneath.
right? Yeah, you're not looking at.
Yeah, I'm like,
I'm not stepping on something.
but when it comes to situational awareness, yeah, if I'm in an area that other than my house,
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, what's
Yeah.
who's that guy?
Yeah.
Who's this person? It's not like I need to know who it is. It's okay, what's their body language?
Sure.
What's in their hands? And are they a possible threat? I don't know.
Right.
And if I think they're a possible threat, I'm gonna go away from them.
Right.
I'm not gonna try to go get near them to
right.
be sure. If I just have a bad feeling, I'm just gonna have a bad feeling.
Yeah.
But if they're going to the same place I'm going, I'm like, all right, let's be a little more situationally aware of this individual or of this group.
Yeah.
Or of this dog.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is. If it looks like a threat or a danger to myself, then I'm like, okay, let's see what we have here.
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
Yeah. And at 27, it's like I learned that when I was like 15.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dad always said there's 3 phases of, I guess, safety. There's white, yellow, red. Red or white is you're in a comfortable zone, your house. That's a place where you don't have to worry about any danger, nothing like that. But there still is somebody wanting to rob you or something like that.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
that's your white zone. Yellow is like a place you're comfortable, but you're unfamiliar with, and then red is, full on
battle mode.
Right.
Sure.
Like grocery store, yellow.
Yeah. Right.
If I'm in an area I'm very unfamiliar with, that I just start hearing a bunch of stuff, it's red. I'm getting out of there. I don't care where it's at. I'm just gonna get out of there for a bit. So, yeah,
yeah. I'm sure you know the name Mike Glover.
Yep.
Wow, I'm such a fanboy.
I actually watched something on YouTube of him this morning. Something him did,
yeah, the social commentary aside,
yeah.
He can get a little nutty on that part, but he talks a lot about how complacency is probably the number one thing that gets people in trouble. Being complacent, being like in that white zone, hearing something, but then being too damn lazy to go like just check it out.
Yeah,
I found that interesting and sort of check myself.
Yeah,
all the times in my life when I've just been lazy.
Yeah, I was complacent till I was complacent up until after my shoulder surgery in 2020.
Okay,
I was complacent. I was like, I was that guy who I was like, I'm top shit, yada yada, yada, and I'm just like, I'm really not.
My shoulder hurts, man.
Yeah. But yeah, I was complacent until I, tried to go switch over into the Air Force.
Right.
I had to do a lot of work to get there. And I was like, all right, you spent this much time slacking and being complacent.
Yeah.
Now in my mind, I was in catch up mode. But at the same time, I'm like, all right, time to start to get to work. You've done enough BS before. Let's get to work.
And I watched you, man. Like I said, I feel like part of your family sometimes, but I've watched you
sometimes, all the time,
work out, and I've done some of your workouts too.
Yeah.
Some of those were kind of nuts, but I mean, you worked hard. I mean, so at what point did you decide? I mean, you were deployed. What point did you decide I'm going to do something, and then just put your nose to the grindstone? What was that?
So I wanted to do it right when I got back from deployment, but I ended up having to find out I had to have shoulder surgery, and then I went to like just kind of downhill from there because I'm like, great, I'm gonna have to wait another year, yada yada.
Yeah.
So then I just got lazy. I went back to playing video games. I never drink. I don't really like drinking. Like if I go out, I'll have a beer or two if people like a social drinker.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't really care to drink.
I don't like to be not in control.
Exactly.
I don't like. I mean, it feels great.
Yeah.
To drink or whatever. I mean, let's party. But I'm sort of a like. If I start, it's like, all right,
yeah,
let's burn some shit down. Like I'm that guy, and I don't like being out of control. Like where that you're making decisions based on like how you feel, and I don't like that.
Yeah, no, I was, everybody's been drunk before.
Oh yeah.
When I've been drunk, it was weird because I always feel like I'm in control. I'm never not in control.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah, but it's like because I mainly think of like my parents because I'm like, if I drive drunk,
Oh, he's gonna
how
kill
will
me.
they destroy me?
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like, I get to like this wall that I just can't get past,
Right.
and I'm just like, okay, if I keep drinking faster and faster and faster, will I get past it? But then it's like, no, nope, still at this wall because it instantly I think of the repercussions of
Yeah,
everything.
totally, man.
And I'm just like, you know what? If I know I'm gonna drink, I either do it at my house or if I go to my buddy's house or something to drink, I put my keys, I give him my keys. He does not tell me where they're at.
Yeah.
I don't want them. You know, I
Right.
tell him like, hey, if I'm coming over, I'm gonna be crashing in the guest bedroom. Yo, keep my keys.
We're doing
done.
this.
Yeah, we're doing it. Screw it. Why not? Right.
You gotta be smart.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
So you just decided I want to do something different.
yeah. It's I was working with dad and I was
Right.
like, this is good and stuff. But in the long haul, I was like, what will I do for retirement? If I want to have a wife and a family.
Right. What am I gonna do?
Yeah. I then just turned it on me. I was like, me, 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 me. And that may sound selfish, but at the end of the day, it's like me, 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 me.
Well, yeah.
I got to focus on me.
Yeah.
Then I called, it started, I actually want to go be a SEAL. I want to go be a Navy SEAL. That's one thing I want to do since high school. Like when I played football in high school, they asked like, hey, seniors, what do you want to do? And I told them I want to be a U.S. Navy SEAL.
Well, you've been around that too. I mean, you guys have family friends that are SEALs.
Yeah, like that.
Special forces people. And I mean, you've been around
Yeah,
that.
I call a guy who's a SEAL my uncle.
Yeah.
I call him whenever I want.
Right.
But
so you've been surrounded by that.
Surrounded by special operations, SWAT, all that stuff my whole life. But I want to be a Navy SEAL. I called a Navy SEAL recruiter and he's like, yeah, we take prior service because I'm technically considered prior service because I'm in the Army. He's like, yeah, we take prior service. I'm like, oh, okay.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. So he gives me my conditional release. I ended up sending it to my commander and stuff. They ended up going through the process. And then I called the developer for the SEALs and he's like, yeah, no, we don't take prior service Navy SEAls. I'm like, what? Okay. What?
Why wouldn't you?
Exactly. So then I call Army. I'm like, I'm already in the Army.
Yeah.
I know all the lingo. I know all the terminology. I have time in the Army.
Let's go, baby.
This is my life.
Right.
So I called them like, hey, I want to go Army Special Forces or at least go Ranger, go be with Ranger Regiment. And he's like, well, since you're prior service, you have to go in as a 12 Bravo. But the perks is you get priority duty station.
What is 12 Bravo?
12 Bravo is combat engineer. What I do in the Army.
Oh,
now.
so
route clearance
the same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
For the Army, not National Guard.
Yeah. So it's same job. It's just doing active duty and not weekends. So I was like, hey, I want to go 18. I want to go, 18 Bravo, or I forgot which one I told him I wanted to go do for an ODA. ODA is Operations Detachment Alpha for Army Special Forces. And he's like, well, to come in, you have to go in as a 12 Bravo combat engineer. But the perks is you get a priority duty station. It means I get to choose anywhere I want to go. And I was like, okay, but
that sounds like recruiter BS. Like it sounds like you're setting me up to go to wherever.
Well, no, so that's the other thing. Prior service does get priority.
Okay.
But they don't want to tell you that, oh, yeah, you can get it. They tell you, oh, you'll get it right. Like you can just put a pack in it. That pack can take 6 months to a year because every person in the active duty Army who's in shape is putting in to go SF.
Sure. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, you know what?
Why we're here.
I'm like, you know what? No.
Yeah.
So then I call the Air Force. I call them like, hey, my name's Logan Norris. I'm trying to go special warfare. I have almost 10 years in the South Carolina Army National Guard. Do you guys accept prior service? And the recruiter's like, well, matter of fact, we're only taking special warfare for prior service. I'm like, well, where do I start? I was like, sign me up. And he's like, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't care.
Yeah, that's something.
I was like, I just want to combat controller, PJ, SR.
Yeah.
I was like, I do not care.
Yeah.
And at the time I was just like, just get me a contract.
Yeah, I want to do something. Yeah.
And then that's when I started like calling some people I know and like, hey, do you know a combat controller? Do you know a SR guy, a PJ? So I just called them and talked to them a little bit. And that's when CCT came about. And I was like, hey, what are the requirements for, height, weight? And because in the Army, they tape around your waistband and then around your neck, and that's how they find your BMI. And he's like, well, how tall are you? I was like 6'1". And I was like, okay, what weight do I have to be? He's like 208.
Ooh.
And I was like, okay, I was like, do y'all tape? He's like, no, it's you do 208 or you're not getting in. He's like, if you're 208.01, you're not getting in. I was like, shit. He's like, how much do you weigh? I was like, 272. He's like, okay.
You do it.
Yeah. He literally gave me the, okay.
We'll see.
Okay, well, lose your weight and come back to me. He did the whole, I don't believe you. I know you're not going to make that weight, yada, yada, yada. And the biggest thing was National Guard. National Guard guys, it's hard to get out of the Guard once you're in a contract.
Hey, man. Yeah.
But I ended up getting it. And then I call him back. So I was 272. I'm down to like 196 now. And I called him and was like, hey, man, I made the weight. He's like, for real? I was like, yeah, man.
You owe me now, buddy.
Yeah. I was like, yeah. I was like, I do. And in that meantime, I was trying to get my conditional release to get out the Guard.
Right.
And he's like, shit.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that. And he's like, what'd you do? I was like, got off my ass.
Work my ass off.
I worked my ass off, dude.
Yeah, don't downplay it. I mean, you worked hard, man.
Yeah, it was rough sometimes, eating clean, because I'm so used to, man, I was eating probably 3-4 pizzas a week, drinking 2-liter Mountain Dews a day.
Yeah.
Like I was bad.
Mm.
And it was a rough like first month because I started eating clean, chicken, rice, vegetables, I quit a cold turkey soda. And I was like, this is bad. Like I had a headache every day for like 2 weeks straight. And I was taking Tylenol, every day because I'm like, I got to get this headache away. And I was just hurting. But once I got past that hump, I was like, this ain't bad.
Yeah, all right.
I can think more clearly. I'm eating clean. And then I just pushed it. And I'm still pushing it now.
Yeah.
A dude texted us yesterday. It's like, hey, today at Special Warfare Candidate course, we just ran an hour and 15 minutes straight at a 6-minute mile. I'm like,
can I do that?
I was like, shit, can I do that? I was like, that's booking it.
Yeah, that's fast, man.
Yeah. So I was just like, I just turned that switch and was like, I gotta go. I gotta finally go do this thing. And mainly because I'd age out. 29, I think, is what the age limit is. I'm 27. And I was like, I gotta put the pedal to the metal and just go. Because if not, I'm gonna age out. And my dream of doing special operations is gone. And I won't ever I will never forgive myself for letting that go. So it's
a strong reason, man.
Yeah, and the hardest thing was staying with it I put my 368 in April 21st of 22, and I got it signed.
Yeah,
I think January of last year or January of this year.
This year, yeah.
Yeah, so then it just turned into just waiting
over
to
a year
the packet and stuff. And I leave like at the end of this month, so I'm like a year or almost 2 years roughly. I've stuck with it and kept,
So what do you attribute that to? Is it that strong of a desire to do something like that for you, or is there something deeper?
It's that desire. Like I was like, I love, I love doing the tactics. I love that world, especially that community. So their special operations in the military is 1% of the 1%.
Yeah, for sure.
So those guys are like a tight community to where you really literally feel like a family. When you're in these bigger units and these bigger companies, you're like, I just feel like a guy. So you don't feel like your family.
Kind of probably are.
Yeah. Let's be honest.
Be real.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
it's no disrespect to
no
any of those jobs. It's just like, there's a lot of
it. And I feel like I can say I've been in almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And I've worked with active duty guys and stuff when I was deployed. But with big companies and stuff, you got to find that little group that makes you feel like a family. But in that world, everyone is a family because we went through 2 years of training for this.
Shared,
and you guys
shared starting point and shared experience.
Yep. And you guys understand
yeah,
what it takes to do the job.
Yeah.
Those guys want to be where they're at. Regular Army units, they don't want to be there. Regular military units, I'm not downgrading them. I love being in the military. I love everything they're doing. But you can tell just from looking at somebody that they don't want to be there. They're there because they need some money or they needed to get out of a bad situation
and you don't see that in those, what do you call them? Upper tiers? I mean, what would you call it?
There's 3 tiers. Tier 1,
yeah,
tier 3.
not the tier like that. What do you call yourself? Yeah, okay.
Tip of the spear.
Okay,
I guess is kind of what it is. Yeah. But yeah, that world, it's, some guys, I mean, they have their back reasons that they don't want to tell, which is completely respectable. But at the end of the day, they want to be there.
So what does it look like to become a combat controller?
Yeah, combat controller. CCT. So the way it starts is
what does the other C stand for?
Well, there's a T.
T. What is a T? Okay, I got you.
I guess
I've seen that. Even I got SEAL friends too, and I don't want you to get mad at me, but like the SEAL, it's like that was kind of a stretch. Like, come on, man.
I mean, most
sea, air, and land. It's like
in the military. They just put letters
It's like,
together, and
it
it's like
sounds cool.
That's an acronym.
Yeah.
I mean, we have SHARP, sexual harassment, assault, rape prevention. I'm like,
SHARP. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yep. So you can remember it.
Yeah. I'm just like, that's a lot. What is it like an Iron Man movie? It's like SHIELD. He says the full name.
SHIELD.
Like, just call it SHIELD.
Strategic Homeland, whatever.
Something. I'm like, you guys could have thought of that sooner. Like, it's like, really? So the pipeline goes. So I had to take an IFT, the initial fitness test.
Yeah.
Which is pull-ups, pull in this order: pull-ups, sit-ups, push-ups, 1.5 mile run, 2 25-meter underwater subsurface swims.
Really?
And then a 500-meter swim.
The Air Force.
Yep.
You have to swim.
Special operations.
I get it.
So standard is for it is you gotta do 8 pull-ups, 50 sit-ups, 40 push-ups, a 10-20 mile.
Okay.
The 2 underwaters are pass fail.
Right. Okay.
And then the swim is under a 12:30. So I passed it all and got the contract.
Yeah.
And then now I have to go to an orientation course, like, hey, customs and courtesies of the Air Force. Hey, welcome to the Air Force. Here's all your stuff.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, cool. That's about a week long. And then I go to SWCC, Special Warfare Candidate Course. I don't know where the I comes from. SWCC.
I'm sure it's in there somewhere.
SWCC?
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, cool.
SWCC. It sounds cool.
Yeah, as long as it sounds cool in the military, you're fine.
Yeah.
That's the Special Warfare Candidate Course. That's pretty much like a prep course. 7 weeks of working out, nutritionist, getting you ready and prepared for assessment.
Tuned in for an ass kicking.
Yeah, getting you ready for assessment selection. Assessment selection's technically 4 weeks long.
So you have to go through selection.
Yep.
Okay.
So assessment selection is technically 4 weeks long, but it's 18 days straight, and then the last week of it is clean up and figuring out if you're selected and all that stuff.
Sure.
Then after that, you go to pre-dive, which 5 weeks. And that's where you're going to just learn the basics of diving, closed rig, open circuit, or closed circuit, open circuit, I think is what they teach you. I don't know what they're going to teach us a pre-dive. And then after that is when you start traveling. You go to dive school, airborne, high altitude, low opening, SEER, survive, evade, resist.
That's the capture and torture you training. Yes.
I guess. I mean, I'm like, nobody talks about it. I'm like, all right, cool.
They don't want to.
Yeah, they're terrified. And then I go to air traffic controller school.
Okay.
I had to figure out how to say that.
Yeah.
So that's FAA certified from what I've gathered. And then I go to a combat controller apprentice course, which is pretty much, hey, now you're going to put everything you've learned into being a combat controller, and now you're going to start, actually doing combat controller stuff, and doing it out in the field. Then after that, I go to 6 months of special tactics training, altering vehicles, guns, explosives, all that stuff, to where you kind of hone in on all your skills.
Right.
And I'm assuming, I don't know, I'm assuming at the end of special tactics, you put everything you've learned together with a full team.
Makes sense.
So it's roughly about 2 years.
Makes sense.
So I'm like, cool.
So will you be sort of older going through selection than other people?
Yeah.
So I've got a good friend that just went through, he's a Green Beret now. He just went through, what is it? 18 X-ray.
18 X-ray.
He went in doing that.
Yeah.
And he was 20. I think he's your age. I think he's 26, 27. Yeah. And he was like, I'm the old man.
Yep.
Like he would message me and be like, everyone here's like 20.
Yeah.
Yep. And they're like, can you buy us beer? Like he said, literally, they're like asking me if I can buy him beer on the weekend. And he's like, this fucked up.
Nope, I'm not getting arrested. Yeah, no.
Because I worked with him, and we had another guy that we worked together a little bit, and I'm 48. The other guy's older than me, and then here's him. He was like 26. He's used to not being the older person.
Yeah.
Like sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, from what I'm gathering, I'll probably be the older guy.
Sure.
Which, again, I don't. None of it phases me.
Yeah.
But I'm. They're gonna probably put me in a leadership role because I have the experience in the military, just to start with. Like, hey, we're gonna put you as like an element leader, squad leader, or something like that. It's like, hey, kind of let's get
these other guys up.
Yeah, let's get these guys in order, stuff like that. And I know what's gonna happen. They're gonna end up firing me from the spot to see how I react. Like,
sure. Yeah.
I'm like, cool.
Test your ego. For sure.
Cool. Thanks. Keep it. whatever. Let the young guys, lead. And
you never strike me as a guy with a big ego. Like
I used to.
Really?
Oh man, growing up,
huh?
I thought I was the shit.
Really?
I thought I was the greatest at everything.
Huh?
And again, deployment humbled me.
Okay.
And I'll joke about that. With some of my buddies and stuff. But end of the day, the only person that pushes my buttons is my father, as you know.
He's a master at it.
Man, that man can say one word.
He's a master at it.
He says one word and I get pissed. I'm like,
you've got the dad thing. He's got the experience in the world you're in, so he knows shit. And it's just a bad combo, man.
Yeah. But he's the only person. Other than that, I don't really care, like get offended by words. The whole thing, in my opinion, is words hurt. No, they don't. They're just words.
Right.
And you can tell. You can come to me like, dude, I think you're a piece of shit. I'm like, wow, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Like what I do is like if some of my buddies will be like, Logan, you're a bitch. I'm like, oh, really? Hold on 1 sec. I'll call my mom. I'm like, Mom, apparently I'm a bitch. She's like, okay. And I'm like,
well, you kind of are.
Yeah, right.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. And I'm like, I tell her, I'm like, Mom, they say mean things. She's like, okay. And I'm like, oh, thank you. You don't care? They're cool. Thanks. And I'd hang up and I'm like, what else you got, dude? Like just to mess with them. Because, it's just growing up, I always used to get like upset when people talk like mean to me.
Sure.
And I'm just like, whatever. Yeah. I don't care. You can say the meanest thing to me. I'll be like, cool.
Yeah. It has more to do with them than you anyway.
Yeah.
You probably forget.
If you want to take the time out of your day to talk trash, go for it.
Yeah.
Don't care. Does not.
I always, when I'm doing stuff, even with this show, and I know that I'm doing well when I have people that don't like what I'm doing. Yeah. That have like, they want to go out of their way to give me criticism or constructive whatever it is. And I'm like, man, thanks for paying attention. God. I mean, like there's so many people that like, did you just click the button? Did you listen? Like, do you even know what's going on? Like, but whenever they give you that criticism, it's like, all right, well, I mean, you care enough to, even if it's negative, I mean, it's not fun, but like, cool. You care enough to say something. Like,
I'll joke around and be like, wow, you're giving me critique. Like you're criticizing me or like, you're talking trash on me. You must really like me. You want an autograph? You want an autograph, man? Like, you want to take a picture? Like, I'm like, thanks, man. I appreciate you paying attention to me.
My favorite one is I had a friend who taught me this a while back. My favorite one is to turn it around and be like, man, you feeling okay today? I mean, you seem like, when you get like this, I know something's up.
What was
they're
that?
like, what
was that old commercial? It was like, you need a Snickers.
You're hungry.
You're hungry. You need a Snickers.
You look like a little monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, but back to the ego thing. I mean, so you say deployment humbled you.
Yeah.
What about this process of getting ready for the Air Force? I mean, did you sort of use that humility in there? I mean,
I realized how out of shape I was. I was 217 pounds. I had no muscle. I wasn't strong. I couldn't do one pull up. I couldn't do 10 push-ups.
Wow.
I think I tested it. I ran a mile and it took me about 14 minutes to run 1 mile.
Well,
and I'm just like, all right. That's what I'm trying to get into. I need to probably lean down and be able to run.
You're keeping a hour-long run at a 6-minute mile pace.
Yeah.
You might want to get your shit straight.
Yeah. And it humbled me drastically, and I was just like, man, it's like this sucks, and I was like, I told myself, I was like, you're the one who thinks you're top shit, but you're out of shape. And I took, I looked in the mirror. I kid you not. I took my shirt off, looked in the mirror. I was like, I'm out of shape.
Day one.
I was like, let hell begin. And I treated it like it was hell. When I worked out, there are times I puked.
Really? Wow.
Oh yeah, I would cry sometimes.
You did Murph with us last year?
No, I didn't do Murph. I did the ruck.
Yeah, you rucked. Yes.
Yeah, I did the ruck, and I was gonna do Murph, but I'm just like, my hips hurt.
Yeah. I remember. No.
Yeah. I was like,
I couldn't remember if you did it or not. That was
because I think I did the ruck with like 50.
It's not smart. I don't. I mean, you're about to enter that world.
Yeah, which I'll be fine with. But I'm just like,
that was not smart.
At the time, I'm like, I'm gonna be so hurt.
You're much smarter than I was. I couldn't even finish.
Yeah, I told Dad, I was like, either you get me to do the ruck or Murph, one or the other. I'm not doing both.
Yeah.
I could probably do both now. But
was it like a 10 mile? It was 10 miles. And then Murph was like, what?
Murph like 30 minutes later. I was like, y'all can keep that.
Yeah, not fun, not smart.
But yeah, it humbled me, being able to, when I saw myself cutting all that weight and I started to see definition, it was like, oh wow, I was like,
It's more fuel for the fire.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And being that big, I still have a lot of work to do, but
Hmm.
I started to see that difference in my body and stuff. Like my legs completely thinned down because I was running so much, doing so much cardio.
Sure.
I was known for having tree trunk legs. I had big thighs. Now I don't have big thighs anymore. I was like, wow. And the biggest thing was when I work out, I started to see my veins. I'm like, okay, I'm really thinning down.
Yeah.
That was motivation. Like
Right.
growing up, I was like, I see all these guys with all these veins.
Yeah. Why don't I
like,
have veins?
Yeah, why don't I have veins? But then when I work out, like I get my veins going.
That's awesome.
And I'm just like, I'm doing the right thing. I'm being smart. And then I just kept pushing it. I never stopped.
Right.
I work out every single day. Probably twice a day, probably 4 or 5 times a week.
Wow.
And then people say you need recovery day. Yeah, like Sundays I take recovery, but it's active recovery. I'll go on a walk. I'll do a ton of stretching. I'll foam roll. I'll do everything I can to keep the body loose. And the next day,
hit it back.
Right back at it.
Whew.
So yeah,
more power to you, man.
I turned into an animal for a little while.
Much respect.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it was.
Turn it on here soon too.
Yep.
So,
turn it on and keep it on for a while.
For about 2 years in Infinity.
Well, that was to say, try till I retire.
Yeah, I think this is who you're going to become.
Yep.
Who are some of your heroes, man?
Dad, biggest one.
Wow.
Dad, hands down, biggest one. Even though like we always are button heads, hands down, biggest hero. I can always look up to him, even though we don't see eye to eye on most stuff. End of the day, I can tell him, no, I'm not doing that. End of the day, and he just gets mad or he's like, whatever. He still is willing to give me advice, being willing to help me. I can always look up to him no matter what. Yeah. Always. And of course my mom. I mean, it's
wow.
You can't not say your mom. My mom's scary. No, my mom. So dad was the hard ass. Mom was the no screwing around, blunt mom. I remember once, and it's a funny story. In wrestling season, I think I was a sophomore, junior. I was wrestling varsity at Dutch Fork High School, and I lost a match. And I went to the locker room and just started throwing stuff.
1 second.
Oh,
your father has told me this story.
Oh yeah.
I'm very interested to hear it
from me.
I shouldn't have even told you that.
Yeah, no, I figured he told you. But so I went to the locker room. I started throwing. I started crying. I was like, I'm done. I fucking quit. My mom came into the locker room. She's like, get your ass out there with your team and go back to wrestling. She's like, get out there now. And she grabbed me and like pulled me out of the locker room. And I was like, doing all that crap,
Yeah.
I didn't like to lose. And I was like, wow. Like, I was like, all right, mom, respect. And then the one other person is definitely my fiance, Savannah. Man, I tell you, she puts foot to my ass more times than I can think.
Yeah.
Man,
all right.
She puts my workouts together.
I was going to say, she was right there with you working out.
Oh yeah, me and her have worked out multiple times together. She still smokes me.
Yeah,
she puts my workouts together. If I have any questions about,
she's a Division I athlete though, right? I mean,
no, she's pro.
Well,
yeah, pro.
Yeah, sorry.
She played soccer at USC.
Yeah.
She plays for the Angel City FC out in LA.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's something to keep up with.
I owe a lot to her.
Yeah. Okay.
She literally told me, she's like, if you're wanting to do this, you need to pull your head out your ass. She's more blunt than my mom. And I told her, I was like, yeah, you're right. And she's like, if this is going to work between us.
She's like, I already know I'm right.
Yeah.
Do the work.
Yeah. She's like, and she told me flat, she's like, if this is going to work between us, I need you to start looking toward a career and not just jobs. To look toward a career, because if you're not wanting to have a career to make yourself better and to have a life after you retired the whole time and not having to work 24/7, then you look for a career.
Yeah.
And she wasn't gonna just like leave and stuff. She was just,
well, sure.
She was just like, hey, what's
gonna work itself out.
Exactly. Yeah. And she always asks, she's like, what can I do to help you? And I'm always the same thing. I was like, what can I do to help you? And she sent me something on like Instagram or whatever. And it was a thing where it's like a couple's like, if my husband can only give me 20%, like I got the other 80 covered.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
and it was like last week, she's like, babe, I may have 10% to give. I was like, I'll cover the other 90. I
Yep.
was like, I got it.
It's gonna ebb and flow, man.
I was like, I'll cover you this time.
Yep.
Because she's covered me many times before. So, you know, I love her to death, and she knows I'll do anything for her, and she'll do the same for me.
But you had a good model in your mom and dad's relationship, I think.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people don't get that, man. A lot of people keep score. A lot of people are like,
Yep.
well, I've been given, 80% for 3 months now.
Yeah. It's never a
It's
score
time
game.
to stop. Yeah. It's like, that's just not going to work.
Never a score game. And I should have listened to my mom sooner. She literally, funny thing is, she told me, she's like, she met Savannah for the first time when we were 19.
She's like, do it. That's the one.
She literally was like, she's the one. You'll marry her. And I was like, how did you know? She's like, mother's intuition.
They know that
like,
shit, man.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
they know that shit.
How do you know?
I know. They know it though.
And then, so me and her ended up breaking up and then reconnecting again.
Okay.
And then now we're engaged and stuff like that. And mom's like, told you.
Okay.
I'm like, I hate you. She's like, told you.
Moms always know.
Moms are always right. I don't care.
So I asked you who your heroes were, and you went straight to your parents and your fiance. Yep. That's a very mature place to go, man. Most people make up sports heroes and things like that.
Well, my thing is sports heroes. You know, do they have any effect in my life?
Yeah.
No. Do I know them? No. Do they know who I am? No. Yeah. You know, it's people who've always been there. Right. Dad have always been there. Savannah's always been there. And my brother, I could say my brother, but we're brothers. I can't give him credit.
Nah,
I'd put him too high on the table.
He gets zero credit.
Yeah. No, I love my brother. I can call him, and me and him talk almost every single day.
That's awesome.
But yeah, mom, dad, and Savannah.
So solid, man.
Hands down.
Well, dude, thank you for coming in and talking with me.
You having me, man.
It's been a great conversation. I've wanted to hear the stories, and you have to have a scenario like this. It's kind of sad that you do, but but I appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming, having me.
Yeah, man.
I'm about to mess it up again.
All right, dude. Well, good luck.
Appreciate it.
And I know you're going to kick some ass.
Oh, yeah. I'll let you know how everything goes.
I'll be following along.
Oh, yeah. I'll be there.